Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to today's Friday Reflections on this, the 4th of December 2020. Jummah Mubarak. I wish you all a blessed Friday. I hope you are well and I hope things are going well for you today on this very special and blessed day for Muslims. Today I would like to read one of the discourses from the Sublime Revelation, or Al-Fath, ar-Rabbānī, by Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani. This is the text. And this one is the 51st Discourse, which is on page 330, or starts on page 330. You know, I'm always astonished when I read these, this was first delivered on the 20th of Shaban in the year 545 AH. So, we are going back, about 900 years ago, something like that. It's 545 AH. Yeah, it's about 900 years ago. 800 or 900 years ago. So, it's quite surprising when we read these and find how relevant these are, because you can read a lot of texts from that time and they do not speak to us now. But I was just reading this to myself and I was struck by the wisdom in these words and how they apply just as much today as they did when they were written, or at least for the most part. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This world is all about wisdom, hikmah, and work, amal. The hereafter is all about power, qudra. The former is based on divine wisdom, while the latter is based on divine power. So do not give up work in the domain of wisdom, and do not underestimate his power in the domain of power. You must work in the domain of wisdom in accordance with God's wisdom, and not depend upon God's power. Do not make destiny, qadr, an excuse for your lower self, nafs, for it will try to use it as a pretext and give up work. Laying the blame on destiny is the pretext of the lazy. Destiny can only count as an excuse outside the sphere of the divine commandments and prohibitions. After some discussion, the Shaykh, may Allah the Exalted be pleased with him, went on to say, the believer does not rely on this world, nor on what it contains. He takes from it his allotted share, and turns away with his heart towards the Lord of Truth. Almighty and glorious is He. There he stays until he relieves himself of the fierce heat of this world, and instructs his heart to enter His presence through the mediation of his innermost being, sending the innermost being out to the heart, and the heart to the tranquil self, and the obedient limbs and organs of the physical body. Then while he is like this, lo and behold, his dependents are enabled to manage without him, and a separation comes between him and them. His Lord protects him from the evils of creatures and makes them subservient to him. He sets up a barrier between his heart and their hearts, and he remains all alone with his Lord. Almighty and glorious is He. 'Tis as if the creatures had never existed, as far as he is concerned, as if his Lord, Almighty and glorious is He, had no creatures apart from him. His Lord, Almighty and glorious is He, continues to be active while he is acted upon. He continues to be the object of his quest while he is his seeker, while he is God's seeker. He continues to be his root, while he is God's branch. None but him, i.e. God, does he know, and none but God does he see. His Lord hides away from creatures. As it's in the Quran, then when he wills, he resurrects him. Surah 80, Ayah 22. Now, what Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani is clearly discussing here is that when we are really in prayer, whether that is salah, whether it can even happen in dua. You can have a very powerful dua and be lost in dua. Especially happens when you're in a state of dhikr, when you do a lot of dhikr and salawat. You can go into a state where all that you can sense is the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you feel you are completely immersed in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And momentarily you forget this dunya, you forget you are part of this dunya. You are just immersed in, as Maulana Shaykh Nazim used to say, Allah's mercy oceans. You are just immersed in them. You cannot sense anything else. You are immersed in God's love and presence. And this is what Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani is clearly describing here when it says the believer does not rely on this world, nor on what it contains. He takes from it his allotted share and turns away with his heart towards the Lord of Truth. This is when we pray, when we do that. Whether it is salah, whether it is dhikr, whether it is dua, whether it is even quiet contemplation in the mosque or in the forest or something, or in the mountains. We can actually end up in that state where all we can feel is the presence of God. And this is important for us because we are at heart spiritual beings. Our true essence is a spirit actually. Yeah. It's a spirit, it's that ruh that Allah has given us. That ruh that comes from the ruh of Allah. This is what animates us. This is why in the Turkish tradition, as Maulana Rumi references, the ney flute, and when you blow into the flute, well, when you blow into the flute, it gives the flute life, and the ney flute makes that crying sound. This is an analogy for our souls. When our souls are in our bodies and they animate our bodies, they are like when you blow into the flute. That was blown into us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not literally, but it's used as an allegory. And that is what brings us life. That is our true essence. We are heart spirit. And this is why prayer and meditation and contemplation, anything which allows you, at least for a time, to take yourself away from the worldly things and into a space where you can connect and be in the divine presence. It's very important, because if you can't do that, you can't recharge. And if you can't recharge, then life becomes very difficult. Let's put it that way. It becomes very difficult to get by. He resurrects himself for their benefit, causing him to exist among them for their welfare and guidance, and he endures their trouble for the sake of the good pleasure of the Lord of Truth. Almighty and glorious is he. The people of the Lord are the guardians of the hearts and innermost beings, standing with the Lord of Truth, and with none but him, working for him and for none but him. O hypocrite! You do not have a clue about these people, nor do you have a clue about faith, Iman, nor a clue about intimate friendship with Allah. Soon you must die, and you will be sorry after death. You have been satisfied to speak eloquently with the tongue, and incoherently with the inner core. And this will not stand you in good stead. Eloquence belongs to the heart, not to the tongue. Weep 1,000 times for yourself, and for others but once. O you who are dead at heart, O you who are absent from the people of the Lord, O backslider, O you who are screened by you and by creatures from the Lord of truth. A very important point here. What Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani is saying is those people who are disbelievers and hypocrites, they are people who are dead at heart. They do not have this spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they are dead at heart. They're actually suffering people. He's not actually saying they are evil or anything here. It sounds bad because he says, oh, hypocrite, but he's just stating a fact about these people. But he mentions here, you who have been satisfied to speak eloquently, so they speak well with the tongue, but they're incoherent with their inner core. They're not connected with their soul. They are not connected with their soul. There's a disconnect there between their true self, their true reality in the hearts, and how they live through their mind self, the day-to-day self, how we act on a day-to-day basis. There's a disconnect, and because there's a disconnect, this is why these people act with hypocrisy. I mean, how can they act any other way? There's a disconnect. They're incoherent people. And it's a shame. We should pray for these people that Allah guides them. We shouldn't hate them. I mean, obviously we have to be aware if we know someone is of that nature, and not to trust them or put ourselves in a compromising situation, but we shouldn't hate them. We should take pity on them. Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani continues, my God, I was mute, and you made me speak. So bring benefit to creatures through my speech, and perfect their righteousness at my hand, or else return me to the state of muteness. O my people, I summon you to violent death. Oh my, gosh, that sounds terrible, but wait. That is to say, to combat with the lower self, nafs, the passions, and the natural impulses, and the devil, to the abandonment of creatures, and to the renunciation of everything whatsoever apart from the Lord of truth. So, he's not meaning literally he summons you to a violent death. What Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani is actually saying is that evil side of ourselves, that dark side of ourselves, that has to be defeated. But he's put it in this way, I summon you to a violent death. No, he doesn't mean that. As he goes on to say, that is to say, combat with the lower self, passions, and natural impulses, and the devil. And he continues, do battle on these terms. He actually uses the word jihad. Do battle on these terms, and do not despair, for as the Lord of truth has told us, every day he is about some awesome business. Every day he is about some awesome business, which is in the Quran, Surah 55, Ayah 29. Yes, as I think I mentioned in my sohbah, it's the greatest jihad is with yourself. I don't know, I put it in a post the other day. The greatest jihad is with yourself, with your own inner demons. If you can overcome these, you can overcome anything. And this is what Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani is referring to here. Ask of him in accordance with his power. Ask of him, ask of God in accordance with his power. Ask of God with regard to power, not with regard to wisdom. Ask of God in terms of his knowledge, not in terms of your knowledge. Ask of God with your hearts and your innermost beings, not with the babbling of the tongue. Ask of God beyond the scope of your knowledge and your power. Stand in his presence in a state of bankruptcy in relation to all things. Do not try to outmaneuver God. Do not try to outdo him. Do not try to outwit God. Do not make fools of yourselves by rejecting God's management in favor of your own management. Anyone who does not put his knowledge into practice is an ignorant fool, even if he has memorized it perfectly and knows it inside out. The acquisition of knowledge without practice will throw you back on creatures, while putting your knowledge into practice will restore you to the Lord of truth. Very important point. Whatever you learn, good knowledge, you have to put it into practice. It's no good just preaching. You have to live what you understand. And we see all the time people they preach to other people while not practicing it themselves, or not even attempting to in some cases. This is not a good place to be. It will make you abstain from this world and let you perceive with your inner. It will shift your focus away from the improvement of the outer and inspire you with the improvement of the inner. And at this stage, the Lord of Truth, Almighty and glorious is He, will befriend you, because you will now be worthy of Him. As Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, has said, and He befriends the righteous in the Quran, Surah 7, Ayah 196. God befriends them outwardly and inwardly. He trains them outwardly with the hand of His wisdom, and inwardly with the hand of His knowledge. So they fear none but God, and pin their hopes on none but Him. They take only from God, and give only in His cause. They become estranged from all things, enjoy His intimate companionship, and feel at home with God. These are the latter days, a time of much change and transformation. This is the age of indifference, the age of hypocrisy, and its general circulation. O hypocrite, you are the slave of this world and of creatures. You put on a show for them, and work to please them, but you forget that you are under the supervision of the Lord of Truth. You make a display of working for the sake of the hereafter, when all your work and aspirations are actually for this world. The Prophet, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, is reported to have said, if a servant puts on a fine show of working for the hereafter, though he does not wish for it and is not seeking to attain it, he will be cursed in the heavens by his personal name and his patronymics. I recognize you, O hypocrites, by means of wisdom and knowledge, but I shall veil you with the veil of Allah, Almighty and glorious is He. Again, discussing this problem of hypocrisy and warning people about it. But at the same time, although Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani is mentioning a lot about hypocrisy here, he says, I recognize you, O hypocrites. He can see who is a hypocrite and who isn't. He has that level of knowledge and insight, so he can see it, he knows. But Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani, he didn't expose them. He said, I shall veil you with the veil of Allah. This is not like people today, they see someone, they do something a little bit that they don't understand or they think is wrong, and they say, Astaghfirullah, you're not Muslim. What kind of Islam is this? Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani, he is not like that. He is not exposing people. He is veiling them. He is following the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is a very important point. Woe unto you! Have you no sense of shame? Your physical bodies have not been cleansed of external sins and impurities. You lay claim to purity of the inner. Purity of the heart has not been realized. So what of the innermost being? You do not behave properly with the created, yet you lay claim to proper behavior, adab, with the Creator. The teacher is not satisfied with you. You have not behaved properly with him and have not accepted his instructions. You sit in the seat of honor and push yourself to the fore. How many people like this today? I mean, this was 900 years ago, and this was a problem in the time of Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani. There is nothing to be said until your affirmation of divine unity, Tawheed, stands erect and steady in the presence of the Lord of Truth, Almighty and glorious is He. Until you hatch from the egg of your existence, Wujud, sit in the lap of grace, come under the wing of His intimate friendship, peck the love of sincerity, Ikhlas, and drink the water of direct experience. Then you will remain in this state until you become a rooster. At this point you will become a guardian for the hens, loving them with selfless devotion, and a muazzin, who will rouse his people from sleep by night and by day, alerting them to the obedient service of their Lord, Almighty and glorious is He. this important point here, and drink the water of direct experience. It's not about preaching. This is a mistake many people make today. It's not about preaching. It's about experience. O ignorant one, put down the catalogue and come. Sit over here right in front of me. Knowledge is obtained from the mouths of men of the Lord, not from the archives. It is obtained from the spiritual state, hal, not from the teaching, maqal. It is obtained from those who are extinct, fanun, to themselves and to creatures, surviving in the Lord of Truth, Almighty and glorious is He. The central point is your becoming extinct, fana, to you and to them. Then your existence, wajud, in Him. You must die to everything other than Him, then come alive through His sake, and for God's sake. Keep company with the servants of the Lord of Truth, who never leave His door. Their job is to carry out His commandments, observe God's prohibitions, and comply with God's decree. They move about in harmony with His will for them and His action on them. They have no quarrel with God where they are concerned, and none where others are concerned. They do not oppose God in anything, be it little or much, be it high or low. Point here, and he expands on the previous point about the materialistic side of ourselves has to die. In order to really have connection with Allah, that side of us has to die, or it has to be tamed. My teacher uses more of an analogy of being tamed, as opposed to, if you kill it, it's like a donkey. If you kill the donkey, it's dead, it's useless. But you have to tame the donkey. You can't let the donkey pull you along. You have to tame it. But other teachers like Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani here, they're saying you have to kill it. You have to kill those side of us, which is really our own inner demons, our own inner evil. In order for the angelic side of our natures to shine, that side has to be subdued or killed. And so you die before you die. This is a recurring theme, not only in these works of Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani or within Islam. This is a recurring theme within all spiritual traditions, to die before you die. The original purpose of going on Hajj was so a person died before they died. And so when they came back, it was the angelic side of them that came back. It was the side of them that was connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that had visited Allah's house in Mecca. Also in Buddhism, when the monks go to Lhasa, it's the same principle, to die before you die. It is also the same principle which you see within Christianity when they talk about being reborn, being born again. The real meaning of it is to die before you die. So the nafsi side of us, that darker side of us, the inner demon side of us, that is no longer, you could say that's no longer the king of us, that's no longer the ruler of us. But we are ruled instead by our ruh, by our spirit, which is connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we're in that condition, we become born again. We become spiritually reborn. This is the same thing what Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani is discussing here. It's the same thing which you will find discussed in many spiritual traditions. This is actually the real deal. This is what it's really about. Today you hear people there say, it's about following, you pray a certain way. You put your hands here, or you put your hands here. You do lots of Allahu Akbar like this, and you put your hands up every time, or you don't put your hands. This is irrelevant. Wallahi, in the grand scheme of things, this is irrelevant. You think Allah's worried about whether you put your hands there or you don't put your hands there? or you put your hands here, or whether you put your hands. If this was what Islam is about, it would be a joke. This is not what Islam is about. This is not what any religion is about. It's about spiritual transformation. It is about being the best human being that we can be, fully in tune with our soul, with our body, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything connected, everything in harmony. This is the goal of religion. It's the goal of Islam, but it's actually, if you read and research other religions, you'll find it's the goal of them all. Shaykh Abdul Qadir continues, you must not be distracted from the service of the Lord of Truth by the service of your own lower self, by the greedy desire to achieve its personal ambitions. The saints, Awliyah Allah, must go through the motions of seeking from creatures, not because they have any need of them, but because God inspires them to do so as a mercy to his creatures. Such a person does not seek anything from them because of his own self. His self has become tame and no longer has any will or desire in relation to this world. You suppose that his own self is like your ignorant self, which has made you devoted to its service, and by which makes you act according to its will and desires. If you had any sense, you would not get involved in its service and distracted from the service of its Lord. For it is an enemy to you. This is in terms of discussing where people serve the dunya. They serve the worldly things instead of serving Allah. Now, we all have to go through the motions because we live in this world. We all have to go through the motions of work, of earning an income and things like this. But it's whether that is our focus, or is our focus serving Allah. If our focus is serving Allah and doing what is right, then we go through the motions. All of that becomes barakah. All of that becomes blessings. Because all of it is an act of worship. Even if it looks the same as what someone else is doing. Two people can have the same job. One of them is doing it for the sake of Allah. One of them is doing it because they are seeking to become a billionaire in this world. And they want to become rich and they want to become powerful, whatever their dreams are in this world. It looks the same because they're doing the same job, but they're actually, one is serving Allah, one is serving their nafs. The right course for you is to respond to it with silence and to throw what it says overboard. You should listen to it as you would listen to a madman who has lost his mind. Pay no attention to its words and its demands for satisfaction of carnal desires and pleasures and vanities. Your destruction and its destruction lie in your heeding it. In your well-being, salah, and its well-being lie in your contradicting it. If the self, nafs, is obedient to Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, its sustenance, rizq, will come to it in plenty from everywhere. But if it is disobedient and throws its way to end, it will have its material means, asbab, cut off, and troubles will overwhelm it. Thus it will perish, losing both this world and the hereafter. Again, this is actually what I mentioned previously when I was commenting on the other chapter, the other paragraph, where I said actually taming the nafs. This is Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani is saying that here. If the self is obedient to Allah, if the nafs is obedient to Allah, then its sustenance will come to it in plenty and from everywhere. So again, it's not about killing it, but it's about taming it. As for the self that is obedient and contented, its owner is served whichever way he may turn. He collects his allotted share with a feeling of satisfaction. He discharges the religious duties, fard, that are incumbent upon him with a willing heart, with no sense of inconvenience. His heart is empty of everything apart from Allah, while his physical body is free from strain in the process of obtaining this world and its bounties. O recipient of blessings, give thanks for those blessings, otherwise they will be snatched from your hand. Clip the wing of blessings with gratitude, otherwise they will fly away from you. Dead is he who dies to his Lord. even if he be alive in this world? What good can his life do him when he is spending it on the satisfaction of his lusts and pleasures and vanities? For he is dead in inner content, if not in outer form. And we see this a lot today. A lot of people, they're dead inside. People even say it. O Allah, make us alive in you and make us dead to everything other than you. O you who are an elder in age, but only a boy in natural inclination, how long will it take you to outgrow your youthful immaturity? Your natural disposition follows the perversity of this world, which is all that you are interested in. Do you not realize that your interest is what causes you anxiety, and that you are the slave of anyone who holds your reins? If your reins are held by this world, then you are a slave to it. If your reins are held by the Lord of truth, then you are a slave to him. If your reins are held by your lower self, then you are a slave to your lower self. If your reins are held by your passions, then you are a slave to your passions. If your reins are held by creatures, then you are a slave of creatures. So notice to whom you are giving control of your reins. Most of you, the great majority, are those who wish for this world. The minority are those of you who wish for the hereafter. The exceptional few among you are those who wish for the countenance of the Lord of this world and the hereafter. In their company you must be well behaved. You must not contradict them and quarrel with them. Do not disparage them, for you will be disparaged. Do not behave badly towards them, for you will be destroyed. Be sensible, you who are showing yourselves hostile to the Lord of truth through your actions. You mean less to him than a mosquito's wing, unless you are sincerely devoted to him in your private lives under all circumstances. The treasure that never passes away is honesty, sincerity, the fear of Allah, and hope placed in him, and recourse to him in all situations. You must have faith, Iman, for it will connect you. When you see one of them, the people of the Lord, lower your wing to him in humility. Submit your condition to him, and do not argue with him about it. Hold your tongue, and do not offend him with your bad behavior. Silence about what you do not know is a form of knowledge, and submission in what you do not know is a form of Islam. So this is less practice today, but this is talking about the adab that you should have towards the Awliyah Allah, which is important, but it is hard for a lot of people to put in place today. And also it only applies to the people who are genuinely Awliya Allah, because there are people today, they pretend to be, and they, if you look at them, they not really people of God in the way that they live. And some people take advantage of these rules. So I'm not going to over-focus on that part at the moment. You should always have good manners with everyone. But some people have abused these guidelines of how to behave in the front of people who are, there's no prophets today, but if there were, then how you would behave in front of them and how you behave in front of people who are genuinely the friends of Allah. But today we have people who are, they are acting that part, and they sometimes abuse this and expect this from people. The real friends of Allah, the real Awliya Allah, if you accidentally showed bad manners towards them out of ignorance, they would not hold it against you, because you do not know, and they would know that. They are very humble people. But if someone is shown bad manners to and they behave appallingly, then it doesn't matter what title they have. You have to wonder. cheerful acceptance of the divine judgment is better than gaining this world in the midst of conflict. Its sweetness is sweeter to the hearts of the champions of truth than the satisfaction of carnal desires and pleasures. It is sweeter to them than the whole of this world and all it contains, because it makes life altogether delightful in all its conditions of various kinds. You must speak about people with the tongue of knowledge, practice and sincerity. Do not speak about them with the tongue of knowledge without practice, for this will benefit neither you nor those around you. The Prophet, Allah bless him and grant him peace, is reported to have said, knowledge calls out to practice, and if the latter responds well and good, otherwise it departs. A bit like the English saying, actions speak louder than words. You know, it's all well and good saying things, but are you going to live it? Its blessedness departs, and its case against you remains to be unanswered. You become a scholar seduced by his knowledge. Its tree stays with you, but you lose its fruit. In other words, like we see today, there are people who are, some of them genuine law scholars, in terms of they know the books, but they're not, their heart's not really in it. They just know technically, and so they do not give fruit. Alaikum Salam. I'm discussing a sope from the Sublime Revelation of Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani. Bismillah. You must beg Allah, Almighty and glorious is He, to grant you a state, hal, and a station, maqam, in His presence. And then if He grants you this, beg Him to keep it a secret and not let you feel like disclosing any part of it. If you like to make public what is between you and the Lord of Truth, it will be for you a cause of your destruction. Beware of taking pride in states and works, for it is a provocation causing the person guilty of it to lose the favour of the Lord of Truth. Be careful. If Allah grants you something, if Allah grants you a spiritual state, or grants you success in this world or in your works or things like this, always remember it is a gift from Allah. It's not because you are great, it's a gift from Allah. Allah is giving to you. Allah is blessing you. So be humble about it, otherwise you can lose what Allah gives you. What He takes, He can also take away. What He gives, He can also take away, sorry. Beware of a fondness for talking about creatures and winning their acceptance, for this will do you more harm than good. In other words, you know, like today, people worry about what the media says about them, especially like our politicians, for instance. They worry about what the media is saying about them. They worry about what people are saying about them. If you worry about this, it will take you away from Allah. It will make you in a right mess, to be honest. Do not utter a single word until you put your own affairs in order and a definite instruction comes to you from the Lord of Truth. How can you invite people to your home without having prepared any food for them? This is a business that needs a foundation. Only then there can be a building. You must dig the ground of your heart until the water of wisdom wells up in it. Then build with sincerity, struggles and righteous works until your castle is erected. Then invite people to it after this has been done. Very important. Work on yourselves. Work on yourselves first before you try to teach anyone else. You cannot give anyone anything if you don't have it yourself, or some experience or genuine knowledge about it. It is a very long sope, so I think I'll end with this one. O Allah, enliven the bodies of our deeds with the spirit, ruh, of sincere devotion to you. O Allah, enliven the bodies of our deeds with the spirit, ruh, of sincere devotion to you. Ameen. May Allah help us to do this and bless us. If you want to read more, try and get hold of a copy of this book, Al-Fath, ar-Rabbānī, or it's called the Sublime Revelation, a collection of 62 discourses by Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani, translated by Muhtar Holland. There may well be other translations. This is the one which I have. It is a few years old, so I am not sure if this is still in print, because this goes back to 1992. But it may well be reprinted. If not, then there may well be another English translation out there, but it is a very good book. Remember, Allah says in the Quran, read in the name of your Lord, and who taught you what you did not know through the use of the pen. The reading is very important, and it's a lost art these days. People don't read as much as they used to. And while videos like this are good, they can convey some knowledge to you, you cannot beat actually sitting down and studying yourself. You will benefit more, inshallah, from that. But if you find these videos useful, please don't forget to subscribe to my channels on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. And you can keep up to date with both my weekly sohbets and zikr, and also my Friday reflections on the Friday. I wish you all Jummah Mubarak. I wish you all a blessed Friday and a blessed weekend. May Allah bless you all, and whatever you are going through in your lives and your families, I pray Allah blesses you all and grants you the best of this life and the best of the hereafter. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa salim. Salli Rabbi wa salim ala jami'i anbiyahi wa musallim wa alin kullin ajma'in wa alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rabbānī ar-Rahīm. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين.